I'm Laura Michael, and today we're going to talk about one of those really handy cooking techniques. If you're cooking for somebody with swallowing problems, this is one you should have in your tool belt for making it possible for someone who has dysphagia to swallow and chew bread and cake and crackers and that sort of thing. The technique is called slurrying. And slurrying is just a common cooking technique. We do it all the time when we make gravy. You know, when you make gravy, you take drippings and you add some liquid to it, and then you take cornstarch and water and you mix it, you put it in, you cook it to bring it up to temperature so that it becomes thick. Well, that is a slurry. Gravy is basically a slurry. But what we're going to do is we're going to bypass the cooking part, and we're going to use an instant food thickener, whether it's a starch thickener or a gum thickener or a gel thickener. We're going to start with that so we don't have to cook the liquid to get it to that consistency. And why we do that is because when you have a slurried liquid, especially with something where you've used a starch thickener or a gum thickener, is it's going to hold that mass together, so that when the person who has trouble swallowing puts it in their mouth, they can manipulate it and pull it together into a cohesive bolus. The last thing we want are bits and pieces of bread and cake to end up in the lung. But when we bind it with a slurry, it makes it possible for that person to have bread, to have birthday cake. It's my belief that everybody should have a piece of birthday cake, especially if it's their own birthday cake. But we're going to be careful to use breads or cakes that are smooth, that don't have fiber, chips, coconut, jimmies, anything extra like that. It needs to be smooth. So we're going to start out with a smooth bread. And what I have here is just your basic white bread. Now, it is a-okay to use a whole grain bread as long as it's a smooth whole grain bread. So like a white whole wheat or an oat bran bread that's smooth is perfectly fine. Now, whenever you make a slurry and you're going to soak something, you want to make sure that it's flavorful. The last thing we want to do is to take whatever flavor is there and reduce it. So we're going to use, with this, for sandwiches, I like to use chicken stock, which is one of those things I keep handy for all my puree clients. And I train people how to use for puree. So I like chicken stock. Apple juice is great for doing cakes and that sort of thing because it's sweet and fairly neutral once it gets into the cake. You can use milk. Milk is a nice thing too because it's going to add extra protein and calories to whatever you're slurrying. But whatever you do, I like to use a low sodium or something that has some extra flavor because you don't want to dilute whatever flavor you have. So what I've done is I've taken 4 ounces of liquid and I mixed it with a gum thickener, and I formed a nectar consistency. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take our bread on a plate and you just cover it with your thickened liquid. Now I'm going to poke this with a toothpick. You can use a fork. You can use a skewer. I just want to poke this so that the bread will soak up the slurry mixture. This is the slurry. How I made this is I took 4 ounces of low sodium chicken stock and I added a scoop of instant food thickener to it and I let it finish working. It took about 3 minutes. So I poked the bread. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to cover the other side. And then I'm going to wait for this to completely absorb. After about 15 or 20 minutes, this will completely absorb the thickened liquid and it'll form a mass. So that when someone who's having trouble swallowing has to eat it with a fork, now you're going to eat your sandwiches with a fork or your cake or your crackers with a fork or a spoon, whatever works, but it will hold together so that when you swallow it, it doesn't break into bits. So slurring is a really simple technique, but it can really come in handy. If you have questions or concerns, please check out my website, dysphasiasolutions.com, or email me at laura@dysphasiasupplies.com. Thank you.